Hello and welcome to A Piece of String, the show that brings together comedians and scientific minds to ask and maybe answer the biggest of all questions ever. I'm Matthew Shribman, I'm a chemist and some might say a biophysicist, and with me today are Josie Peters, an astrophysicist.
Hello.
Sophie Ward, a biomedic and neuroscience enthusiast.
Hello.
And special guest, Paul Stubley, a laser physicist.
Hello.
Three of us, and three of us only, will ask a question to which one of us secretly knows the answer. And points will be allocated on a tyrant arbitrary basis by our producer, Sam Lee. And the winner will get this USB keyboard, which is quite big. So that's good.
Yeah,
that I am holding.
It's a good prize this week, isn't it?
It's nice. It's good colour.
It is missing a key.
Oh.
It's the hash key. That's not useful.
I don't use Twitter, so it's fine.
So, I'm going to start with my question. Although, actually, it's not my question. It's a guest question from Nico Hansen.
Ooh,
Nico.
Guess question.
Is it possible for a human or mammal to spontaneously burst into flames?
I mean, I'd like to see it happen.
Would you?
Well, not to anyone alive.
Horrendous.
Bleak.
Maybe to like a male duck or something like that. That would be quite
A male
satisfying.
duck?
Well, yeah, they're
they're not
notoriously
nice.
known as not very nice.
Okay.
So
And notoriously known as mammals.
are they?
Notoriously.
Oh wait, a
The
bird
question
isn't
said
a mammal,
human
is
or
it?
mammal.
Infamous.
Because otherwise we go straight to Phoenix. If we were chatting about birds, we all know
would.
full well they burst
Classical
straight into flames.
Real bird.
So, my friend Johnny has just been moving into my flat with me. And he was just walking down the street yesterday carrying all of his things. She's just
spilled
poured
tea.
fluid all over her body. She's just making sure she's not going to set on fire.
I didn't put the lid on properly on my special cup. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. It's good.
Put
You're
out
flame
the tea.
retardant now.
Put out the tea.
Anyway, yeah, he was walking along the street carrying all of his things with his headphones in, just smiling to himself as he does. And someone runs up to him and is like kind of shouting at him and pointing, and he can't hear them because of his headphones. And he eventually gets a headphone out, and this person is shouting, "You're on fire! You're literally on fire!"
What?
And he looks down, and one of the big bits of cardboard that he's carrying is literally in flames.
Oh my god.
My days.
It must have been such a good scene because the way he walks is always so kind of jolly and cheerful.
I love the idea that he was on his headphones. He was listening to the theme song to Arthur. Like every day when you're walking down the street, you burst into flames.
Either that or fire. Do 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 do.
How does it work when someone swallows flames?
Ooh, they have something in their mouth, don't they?
It's like they have I thought that they do you know boys?
No.
Have you done it? Have you done it?
Well, I only with the smallest flame, as in you can put a match out with your mouth.
You've done a bit of swallowing.
A little bit.
You can
just
put
like
a match out with your mouth?
Yeah, just in case if you're not hungry for a full flame, you can just have a little snack. But that only works by starving it of oxygen. You just close your lips around it, and the oxygen disappears straight away, and then the match goes out almost immediately.
But so do you take the match to your mouth and then put your? That scares. I know. You know when people wet their fingers and then put out flames that way. I'm too scared to do that. So you, Paul, my friend, you're evil Knievel in
I think
my eyes.
with any of these things, if you commit, then it goes out straight away and it doesn't hurt.
Okay.
Whereas
like
if you don't, then you just have a lit match inside your mouth, and
those-
that's when it starts to hurt.
days.
My head teacher at primary school actually used to say, if you just grab a nettle, it doesn't hurt. But obviously it still
No,
hurt.
she's right. Yeah, if you commit, it's like an electric
Yeah, I can see from your eyes you're like.
You know, it's
I think
just
that's
like
nonsense.
Teachers.
walking into flames.
No, but she was great. It was a great inspirational talk. She was a lovely, lovely woman. Anyway, this fire eating thing, isn't it that when you have not oil, what is it you have in your mouth? What
Is it for?
There was-
But isn't it what
you
they?
spit it out?
Yeah, isn't it what at the end of what when they've been blowing fire out their mouth by using ethanol or something like that and spitting it out, and it lights on the way out. Then, as a last trick, they put the flame in their mouth and close their lips around it. It'll be a similar
Oh,
thing.
that's the same thing. Oh, yeah,
so.
because of course the actual act of eating fire. Oh, I think it's gasoline, is it,
Yeah.
that they spit out, but the actual act of eating it.
But yeah, they do put it. I guess you're right. They probably do close their lips around it.
I
But
think
still
so.
big flames.
Mm-hmm.
Still probably had the odd accident with that.
I'm sure.
But even then, they don't spontaneously burst into flames afterwards.
Have you you know that thing where you focus light through a lens and you can make a fire
Mm-hmm.
through a magnifying glass?
You were such a little kid that did that with ants, weren't you, Matt?
No way. I was absolutely horrified by that.
But good to
really?
get ants in the podcast early on.
God, that always made me really sad, the idea of people doing that.
Presumably, people who have very thick, lenses have to be careful of that.
People
Even
what?
the thick spectacles have to be even more wary of staring into the sun
Oh, yeah.
for that reason.
The eyelashes set on fire.
Oh my goodness.
Mm.
Burning hair smells horrible as well, doesn't it? I was at a party once and someone caught their hair on a candle.
On purpose?
No.
To make friends?
The wild pie.
Quick, a point of interest. Hello.
That girl over there is super, super hot. No,
It's,
literally, she's put her on
socializing
fire.
101.
But I was thinking because fires can start through raindrops, right?
Whoa.
Can they?
Well, because of the light through the raindrop. The
'Cause it acts
raindrop
as a
acts
lens.
like a magnifying glass, and then the
I
light,
think that can happen.
That's cool.
There's a friend of mine who at university used to take photographs through raindrops. So you could see, so he had it perfectly focused. So you had a fisheye effect through the tiny raindrop and everything else around it was blurry, but you could see all of the scene through this little raindrop. It's really beautiful.
That's really cool.
But I guess you must be able to focus. Did anyone get an answer for this?
I got an answer to this, actually, yeah. So spontaneous human combustion is something that I'm actually was really interested in. So thanks, Nico. Was Nico?
It was Nico.
Thanks,
Nico.
Thanks, mate. Because someone once told me that there were reported cases of people just bursting into flames, and it made me terrified. I was like, oh my days, that might actually happen. And there are some people that believe it's possible. But there's basically about 30 recorded cases of people spontaneously bursting into flames that were investigated. And an explanation was essentially found for all of them, and that was that there was something nearby that could have set the flame off. But then something happened called the wick effect. Now, the wick effect, Paul, you're nodding. Do you know what the wick effect is?
Yeah.
You've recently come across it. The wick effect is basically where if you burn a bit and some of your fat kind of melts away, and then whatever you're sitting on absorbs the fat, and then that means it burns quicker.
Whoa, that's scary.
Yeah, so basically, as you burn, the fat gets absorbed by, say I'm sitting on a seat that absorbs the fat.
Mm-hmm.
So the seat starts burning more because it's got more fat in it, and it's like a candle wick. And then you burn more and give off more fat, and then it's like a cycle like that. So basically, if you don't move when you start burning, you could become like a human candle and then kind of go up in flames.
Whoa.
And the study, they said when they investigated, people burning, they didn't actually burn people, that the fire travels kind of upwards more easily than it travels to the side, which is why in these cases of spontaneous human combustion, there's been a seat that's a bit burnt and then the other stuff in the room is okay. And it's because the fire kind of burns upwards and then as its merry way.
Oh, so the idea with spontaneous human combustion is that one human burns and everything else is just seems untouched,
Yeah.
and that's why it seems like magic.
Oh yeah, sorry,
Okay.
yeah, I didn't realise if people hadn't heard of spontaneous human combustion, exactly, it's that there's this thought that you could at any point just burst into flames and you would go up, and then the world would be the same as it was before, except you would not be in it.
So if you have more body fat and are quite tall, are you at more risk?
So exactly. So something that was found commonly in these cases of spontaneous human combustion, it was, people that had more body fat, and also if people that for example, were intoxicated so they couldn't move, so they, if you'd started burning, maybe not your mate walking down the street if you'd easily didn't notice, but if you start burning, then you obviously would escape. If people were really intoxicated or if there was some reason that they couldn't move, they would be more likely to just go up in flames. But that, again, it's not spontaneous. It's not like you're just bursting into flames randomly. There's got to be a trigger. And skiing on its own doesn't burn that fast. So, yeah. And spontaneous combustion in general, which is just things bursting on fire, does happen. But it happens to things like hay. If, hay, no, hay, the grass.
hay.
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 It happens to hay.
Hay.
It's okay.
Behave.
I was behave how it should do. I was grass hay. If it gets something that can burn easily, if it gets a bit too hot and the heat can't escape, then it'll go up in flames.
So with the human combustion, were there any examples of it happening to other creatures as well?
Oh, what, male ducks?
Well, I'll get them one day.
I didn't read of any. I specifically went into human combustion to try and keep niche for Nico, for Nisho.
Have you ever plunged your hand into some hay? to see if it's good or not?
I tried to find a needle once, but I didn't.
You did.
I
Well,
didn't.
you
No, I
didn't
didn't
find
manage
it,
to
but you
find the
tried.
needle. No, I
Yeah,
tried.
valiant. No, if you plunge your hand into hay and it feels warm, eyebrows raised.
Hello.
Then if it's warm, then that means that it's probably rotting because it's all the bacteria in it. So that's how farmers check if their hay is good or not.
And they want it to not be rotting.
They want it to be nice and cool.
One thought on the other sort of curiosity about human combustion is that it's often, or it was written in the good old days, that their hands and feet would be left, and their torso would have burnt, and that is possibly because there's less fat in the hands and feet and than in the rest of the body, and that's why it wouldn't burn in the same way.
Check
Wow.
it.
Cool.
Which is
blimey.
unusual because in a bit bleak. If a human body burns, for example, in a house fire, it would normally be the extremities that would burn because they're a lot thinner, and the torso would be burnt but not burn completely.
When you're your own fuel,
whereas in human
then,
combustion, it's the
yeah.
exact
Other way
opposite.
around.
Wow.
Wow.
So there we go, Nico. No.
Great question, Nico. Thanks.
I've got a question, and I've been wanting to ask this for ages. I want to know what planet would have the best New Year's party. So I'm thinking like frequency, because some have like a year more than others. I'm thinking fireworks. I'm thinking views, weather for a party. Lay it down, friends. Which planet do you think would have the best New Year's party?
Is it in our solar system or anywhere in the universe?
So I think when I first thought the question, I was quite small-minded. So I thought the solar system. I've grown as a person. So
Excellent.
if you've got information about other planets, Josie, which you probably do, then feel free.
So, how do we feel about New Year's? Because I love parties, but my best New Year's Eve ever
Legend.
was just. My best New Year's ever was just when I went to bed, like 10 p.m. home.
Your best one ever.
Ever. I loved it because I just woke up in the morning. I was like, whoa, I've never felt so great on New Year's Day. I woke up and I was like, this is the beginning of a great new year.
And how was the year?
Yeah.
It was fine.
I think New Year's Eve parties have a lot to live up to. And I think few parties in general around the year live up to it.
Exactly.
So plan for something small,
It's too much.
execute well.
Yeah, because if you don't get absolutely like schlewed, then if you go to bed not long after midnight, sorry, jargon check, schlewed means drunk, then you probably will feel fine the next day. I feel like, Matt, when you say that was the best New Year's
It
you
probably
ever
wasn't
had,
the
it means
best
that all the
ever.
other ones you've probably been a goner. New Year's this year, I was in Popworld in Preston, but I arrived after midnight and the lights were all on and the glitter was all on the floor. It was so grim. But there's no Popworld on any planets, are there? So
I wouldn't be
Hey,
so sure.
As far as we know.
imagine that they're desperately searching for water on Mars and then they find like Popworld.
They've been looking for the wrong thing, haven't they?
Yeah, just like in the basement of Mars.
There's like 6 rovers having an absolute mental time.
Yeah, exactly. And it's Spice Girls Wannabe for the 5th time tonight. Yeah. Okay, so a big thing in this planet question I was thinking about is frequency. So what makes a planet have a shorter year? Because I know they do, but what makes some planets have shorter years than others?
Being closer to the star. So it's literally, how long it takes you to go around the star. I guess if you were moving really fast, you would have a shorter year as well.
Okay.
Because if a planet gets faster, if it moves closer to the sun, it will just get a shorter year, right? And vice versa.
Yeah.
So in our solar system, Mercury has the shortest
Yes.
year.
Oh, yeah.
So they would have the most New Year's parties on Mercury.
Yeah, every
So
80
many.
days.
Every 80 days. So I think having a huge party every 80 days is pretty good, right?
Is it 80 days or 88 days?
What's the difference?
Oh,
It's 8 days.
take
8
your
days a
point.
week.
We only want ballparks
Mathematically
here.
the same.
So 80 days on Mercury, so 80 to 88 days on Mercury, and all the way up to 84 years on Uranus.
84 years.
So you wouldn't want to have to wait that long.
Got it.
One New Year's party each lifetime, basically. That'd be rubbish.
Even bigger on Neppers, no?
Why?
Neptune.
Isn't Pluto like 200?
Bit
I mean, I
further
know
away.
Pluto's not a proper planet anymore.
Don't bring up Pluto.
The
It's
issue
about
with
200
Mercury
years.
is that their day is longer than their year. So you wouldn't be able to like pop the cork at midnight. You wouldn't be able to have your little kiss because it wouldn't be midnight.
Oh, well,
wouldn't
I'm never
happen.
able to have a little kiss anyway,
There
Paul,
might-
trust me.
There would be entire years that didn't have a single night.
Should we do a bit of an answer?
Who's got it?
Well, I've kind of got one, but it's just because Paul started talking about it. Mercury. I
Yeah.
mean, Mercury.
Tell me.
In some ways, it'd be great because you'd get two New Year's parties a day, approximately.
What? I don't.
But you just got a
that's too
properly
many.
long
That's
day.
excessive.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, it's actually because the day is just really, really long.
Okay.
Because the year on Mercury is still like 88 days.
Okay.
It's just that it spins real slow.
So I guess would it be like living in like Sweden or somewhere where at that wrong time of year where the sun never sets or the sun never rises?
The wrong time of year. Wait, is the back of Mercury, the bit that doesn't face the sun, is that actually surprisingly cold because it doesn't have much of an atmosphere? So like, you'd get 2 New Years a day and one of them would be a hot one, like 400 degrees or so. The other one would be a cold one. I don't know how cold it'd get. So you'd have like your cold and your hot New Year and it'd just be that'd be how it is.
Okay.
How big's Mercury though? Could you just walk around to the other side?
It depends if you're busy or not.
Or how sweaty you'd get at 400 degrees C.
Yeah.
What are other options then? Mercury is a potential.
So I like Mercury and Mars both have a third of the gravity.
All right, Paul,
So you
you're
could
literally
bounce it.
just reading out all of the all of the stuff I've
Paul,
read.
no, Paul, please. I actually no, don't know, Paul. It was my question.
Right, but Paul's researched an answer that's the same as mine. No, that's fine. I literally have on my next line, Mercury and Mars both have a third of our gravity, which is really important for a party. Because you want low gravity at a
Why have
party.
you just taken that off Paul? Paul just said that, Matt. Why are you copying Paul? What are you playing at?
Oh, I hope the next two are the same because I thought they were quite niche. Go on.
Okay, what have you got on the next one?
I've got that only Venus and Mars have water and you need that for champagne.
I was going to say, parties need a good supply of ice.
Have you got something about Europa?
And so, yeah, exactly.
Do you?
Although they've recently discovered a bit of ice on Mars, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was going to say you could also have it on Mars.
But Europa's just a massive jacuzzi.
Yeah, also good for a party.
Wait, what's your
Maybe we shouldn't re-research other questions.
Sorry.
What's your
No, actually, this is quite funny. What's your final point?
What's Europa? What's Europa?
Europa's one of the moons of Jupiter, and it is a water planet with an ice crust.
What?
But because of the way it gets pulled on by Jupiter, the water in the middle might actually be warm and bubbling. So it's just one enormous. It could be just one
Oh,
enormous
yeah.
jacuzzi.
Because I've seen,
amazing.
they've seen like geysers and volcanoes. and-
Jesus.
So there's a
Oh,
lot of,
actually, no. I think I'm talking about Enceladus, which is around Saturn, where they've seen like huge plumes coming out of it.
is
by
that
similar
the
mechanism.
one where they're trying to develop probes that can kind of fly above and then measure the geysers to see if there's anything in the water?
I think there's currently a bit of tension as well as to like, does Europa or does Enceladus get a visit? Who's gonna get to be explored?
The only other thing I had was just that Earth-like planets could be good. Just other planets a bit like Earth, because Earth is a pretty good place for New Year's party, right?
Yeah.
So, because that's where the people who care about it are. But the other Earth-like planets, just planets within the habitable zone of other stars. So, where it's just the right temperature to probably have a good bit of water, and maybe you can invite some friends there. But the thing is, they're quite far away, and people might just flake.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, or you were saying about the view as well. So you could maybe try and be on some planet that orbits around 2 stars. Maybe you could sit on Saturn and be like, well, this is nice. If you were traveling just for New Year's, like that's the party destination.
Got anything else, Paul? My researched answer.
No, I'm good.
All right.
I'll be sending Facebook invites out soon, guys. Matt, don't wait up.
It's a mystery, and it will always be a mystery.
And now for the mystery midsection. Just before the show, I gave everyone the following question.
How'd you convince a flamingo to have sex?
I then asked everyone to write down a fictional but reasonable sounding answer. I will now read out all of those answers with the real answer mixed in. Everyone will then get the chance to decide which answer they think is correct. Answer number 1. To convince a flamingo to have sex. You increase the number of shrimp in their diet? The male convinces the female to choose him using a series of choreographed neck movements. Surround the flamingos with mirrors. Put your foot down. And finally, ask it nicely.
Asking nicely. That's how it should be, shouldn't it?
Yes.
Convince is a bit of a weird. We've got to convince it first, you know.
I
Yeah.
could believe the neck movements one. There's
Could believe.
There's enough weird stuff going on in nature. I could believe the shrimp. Although no, I don't believe the shrimp. As soon as you've had a big meal, the last thing you want to do.
Yeah, but if the
It's
big
got
meal
rumpy pumpy.
consists of shrimp,
Yeah.
then
Does shrimp spice you up a bit?
yeah.
Mhm.
Ooh,
Replace their shrimp with oysters.
yeah.
That'll do it.
Was there any more reasoning to the put your foot down one?
No, I think it was a flamingo-based
I think it's
joke.
a flamingo
Okay.
joke.
I mean, the mirrors. So what? A flamingo is so aroused by its own body.
I mean,
if
they
you
do
saw
all
it-
look very similar, don't they?
Yeah. I just like see it thinks it's a different flamingo. Like Narcissus with the mirror. Oh, oi, oi, want a piece of you. Oh, wait, it's me.
Josie, what do you think?
I'm gonna go for mirrors as well. I reckon they're vain.
Oh, I've not gone for mirrors.
Oh,
I am going to go for mirrors.
What do you think, Sophie?
I'm going to go for shrimp.
Well, you'll all be pleased to know that I came in second place
I'm so pleased to know that.
because mine was the shrimp, and the correct answer was the mirrors.
hey.
Oh, no, so I put you in second place.
Oh no, we all drew actually, except for you.
Yeah, I came basically.
Scoring
I came in second place. You all came.
It's because flamingos. They won't have sex with one another unless they're surrounded by loads of other flamingos. So if you don't have many other flamingos around, then you surround them with mirrors.
It's okay. So I was envisaging a lone flamingo surrounded by mirrors, and I didn't understand the engineering of the situation.
I see.
But I like the idea that if, as they start, they're like, look, everyone else is doing it.
Josie, you got a Quezzy?
What is the highest height that you can bounce a bouncy ball, either on a natural or unnatural surface on the earth,
Ooh, unnatural. Okay. So-
like sand or like lino flooring?
I have a bit of an issue with this question
Why, Paul?
Oh, Paul.
Sorry, Paul.
because of the use of the phrase natural or unnatural surface.
On the earth?
It wriggles my rancor.
Why?
And I'll tell you for why.
Wriggles my rank.
So, when people say with like you shouldn't put unnatural things into your body or you shouldn't use unnatural chemicals and things like this. What is the difference between, for example, a house made by a human, which most people would claim is unnatural, or linoleum flooring, as was used earlier, and like a beaver's dam, or a bird's nest, or honey? If we're talking about chemicals,
Well,
we are the creature that makes chemicals.
What I mean by natural or unnatural is something that is naturally occurring. Like you're not going to go out and find laminate flooring in the desert.
Nor honey, nor a beaver's dam.
No,
But you might find them in a woods.
You might find a house in the woods. And if you do, and it's made of gingerbread, what should you do, Paul?
Go
Eat it.
inside.
Get straight onto eating it.
Yeah.
Don't
Get
go
into the
inside.
oven.
Don't fall for that.
No.
Eat it from the inside out. The oven's the tastiest part.
Oh, is it? Oh, thanks,
Yeah,
Sophie.
so I've
Top
heard
tip.
anyway. That's Sophie's top tip for gingerbread housing.
She's got her own.
What's the highest you've ever thrown anything?
I'm not very good at throwing. I was always much better at sports with like sticks and bats and stuff, like tennis and hockey.
I was bad at throwing as well. I had to have a special lesson with the PE teacher at school to teach me how to throw.
How long was the lesson? Like a whole hour on throwing?
We spent a good 15 minutes while everyone in the class just waited for me to learn how to throw and catch.
Oh,
I was good at other things.
So when we're talking about bouncy balls, so why? So a bouncy ball off a surface, and my immediate thought was like, oh well, bounce plus bounce. If you bounce it off a bouncy surface, it would bounce more. But of course, it wouldn't. You'd need a hard surface. Because the first thing I thought was like, Do you like those trampoline rooms? Like there's one near where I used to work, a school I used to work, called Energy, and you go in and it's just like everything, like the floor is trampolines, the wall are trampolines, and like they're really like all the kids at school would have birthday parties there and come in the next day with like broken arms. So that's like, if I took a bouncy ball in there, it wouldn't bounce that far, would it? Because it needs a hard surface to bounce
Not
off.
necessarily. As long as it hits something and like stores the energy elastically and then releases it as movement, then it can be a bouncy thing on a bouncy thing.
But then if it bounces into the bouncy thing, then the bouncy thing.
As long as it
moves
recoils
it.
and then fires it back.
What you wouldn't want is kind of it to bounce off a marshmallow or something that would be
It would absorb
dampening
the energy,
the
yeah.
energy.
Okay. Okay.
So you could have like a ball that didn't seem to be bouncy that would bounce off a bouncy surface, or vice versa, or they could both be bouncy. But if you had, like a blob of jam and you threw that at a trampoline on the wall, can't expect it to come back to your piece of toast that you're waiting expectantly with.
Yeah.
You got any science?
Yeah, I've
No,
got
the
a bit of science.
You're a little bit tense. I think I could tell you had the answer to this question because you were just slightly tense. Just a little bit.
Gearing
I
up.
was thinking about.
Here he goes.
I was thinking about whether it would work the elastic on a trampoline thing. So here's a bit of commercial information.
Thank you.
There is a bouncy ball in America. I won't say the name. It doesn't need any extra advertisement. But they fill it with helium, such that it is so light that when it does bounce, it is lighter than air, so it can bounce a lot
That's
higher.
how they do it. I've always wondered how it is that they're getting bouncy balls.
So they have a really thin sort of elastic shell, and then it's highly pressurized. It does the same thing where it would contract and then store the elastic energy and then bounce, but it's also extremely light compared to its shell. So it actually, it won't be quite lighter than air because otherwise it would float away when you let go of it. But it's sort of almost in equilibrium.
But doesn't that mean it's got quite a low terminal velocity? It can't get that fast going downwards. You have to really throw it downwards.
You do have to absolutely launch it downwards. You couldn't just bounce it. But pardon me. So there's quite an interesting bit of physics to do with bouncing, which is if two objects bounce into each other and then go away again, collide and then bounce away, there's a number which decides how much energy they have after the collision. And it is the same for any two objects. So however they bounce, they will always lose a certain amount of energy. It's called the coefficient of restitution.
Whoa.
And so if you drop a tennis ball, say its coefficient is 0.8, whatever you drop it with, it will have 80% of the energy when it bounces back. So normally, like the bounciest bouncy balls, the ones that I just described, have something above 0.9, so they'll keep 90% of their energy when they bounce back off the floor.
Yeah.
But let's think about bouncing off something that isn't just the floor. Has anyone ever seen the trick where you bounce two balls, one on top of the other?
Ooh, no.
No.
So if you held the bouncy ball on top of a basketball and dropped them both at the same time, the basketball would hardly bounce at all. It would almost land dead.
It transfers all the momentum.
And it transfers all its momentum to the top ball, and the top ball can fly off. So there's a really good video of this on YouTube, if I'm allowed to name drop. By a YouTube sensation called Physics Girl.
I love Physics Girl.
There we are.
Yeah, she's amazing. She followed me on Twitter the other day. I was so excited.
So she does a really good video of this where they drop a golf ball on top of one of these extremely bouncy balls on top of a basketball, and the golf ball, which would normally drop from a height of 2 feet and maybe bounce up to a foot, something like that, she drops it from a height of 2 feet and it bounces 28 feet in the air. So it goes 800% higher than she dropped it from. And it would turn out as this coefficient of a huge number. So what's happened is all of the momentum that is stored up in the elastic deformation of the basketball is then transferred like a tiny trampoline to the ball on top. That itself squishes. It's transferred to the ball on top. And the golf ball goes absolutely flying up into the air.
If you're listening on Entail, then that YouTube video will be linked up.
Oh.
Yeah.
God. Technology these days.
Oh, yeah.
The magic.
And I think that's a nice sort of way of keeping with the question, that you don't need some unnatural surface. You just need to bounce multiple balls on top of each other.
So the bigger the
Little
pile
pyramid.
of balls, the bigger it'll go.
Quite
Do you have any advice? Surely we should get some government regulation and stop people from bouncing too many balls on top of one another, or do you think?
I think it's probably fine as soon as we get into orbit. Then we can save all that rocket fuel, can't we?
Could we actually do that? Could we actually launch a rocket in this way?
I reckon so.
You
just need a massive basketball
We're gonna
underneath.
need a bigger basketball.
I've got one of them.
Wait,
Yeah.
we can just transform the moon, right? Just cover that in like basketball
No, the
stuff.
moon's pretty bouncy, I think. Yeah,
Great.
that's the end of that. And we have arrived at the end. Points have been allocated by our producer, Sam Lee, according to a system that none of us were aware of until round about now. Sam, what's the verdict?
Well, it's just you and I left, isn't it, Matthew? Because surrounding the table, apart from your good self, are 3 piles of ash. The other contestants having spontaneously combusted, unfortunately.
That happens.
So, as the last man standing, you're this week's winner.
Really? I've actually won.
Yeah.
I have won, and all it took was the death of all the other people in the room. Finally, my victory. My first victory on the podcast. I'm going to tell my parents.
Vindication.
For now, thanks to Josie Peters, who is Ash, Sophie Ward, who is also Ash, Paul Stubley, Ash, and Matthew Shribbman, that's me, and our producer, Sam Lee. Well done for making it through. And to Unbound for their generosity in hosting and supporting us. You can follow us on social media by searching A Piece of String or String Podcast. You can follow Sophie Ward on social media by searching @Soph's Notes. And you can follow Josie A. Peters on social media by searching Josie A. Peters with an @ in front. Or you can follow me on social media by searching Science in the Bath or Matthew Shribbman. And if you have a quirky question of your own that you'd like a scientific answer for, then please reach out to us on any of our social media channels. Thanks for listening. Please rate and review us on Spotify, iTunes, etc. It makes a really big difference in spreading the word, and we will be back again in a fortnight. And as usual, let's never speak of any of this ever again.